Have you ever wondered why the righteous suffer? In today's video, we explore the profound story of Job in the Bible. The story of Job is a story of faith amidst suffering. And let's find out why. In the ancient land of Uz, there lived a man named Job. Job was incredibly wealthy, with vast flocks of sheep, camels, oxen, and donkeys. He had a big family, 7 sons and 3 daughters, and was known as the greatest man in the East. But more than his wealth, Job was a man of integrity. He was blameless and upright, always striving to live a moral life. He feared God and shunned evil, offering sacrifices for his children, just in case they had sinned. Now let's take a trip to the heavenly realms, where things get really interesting. In a heavenly command center, where God is holding court with his angelic beings, the sons of God. Among them is a figure called the Satan. But don't imagine the red-horned figure from pop culture. In Hebrew, the Satan means the accuser or the adversary. God, proud of his servant Job, points him out to Satan and says, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." Satan, ever the skeptic, challenges God. "Does Job fear God for nothing?" he asks. "You've blessed him with everything he could ever want. Take it all away, and he will surely curse you to your face." God accepts the challenge, but sets a boundary, and with that, the stage was set for a series of devastating events. One by one, messengers came to Job with the worst news imaginable. Raiders stole his oxen and donkeys. Fire from the sky burned up his sheep and servants. More raiders took his camels, and worst of all, a mighty wind collapsed his eldest son's house, killing all of Job's children. In a single day, Job lost everything. In his grief, Job tore his clothes and shaved his head. But instead of cursing God, he fell to the ground in worship and said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." Despite all this, Job did not sin by blaming God. In heaven, where Satan returned, God points out Job's continued faithfulness despite his terrible losses. But Satan isn't convinced. "Skin for skin," he exclaims. "A man will give everything he has for his own life. Stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face." God allows Satan to test Job further, with one condition. He must spare Job's life. So, Satan afflicts Job with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. Job's wife, seeing his misery, urges him to curse God and die. But Job remains steadfast, rebuking her. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble? Job's friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, come to visit him. They are so shocked by his appearance that they sit with him in silence for 7 days. Finally, Job speaks, cursing the day of his birth. He wishes he had never been born, feeling that life only adds to his suffering. Job's friends believe that suffering is a punishment for sin, so they urge him to repent. They argue that God is just, and Job must have done something wrong to deserve his misfortune. But Job insists on his innocence, saying he hasn't done anything to deserve such suffering. This debate goes on for 34 chapters. Job's friends come up with increasingly elaborate guesses about his supposed sins, and Job keeps defending himself. He rides an emotional roller coaster, sometimes confident in God's justice, other times accusing God of being unfair. Finally, Job demands that God explain himself. And in a dramatic turn of events, God answers. He appears to Job in a storm, not to explain, but to question. God takes Job on a virtual tour of the universe, showing the complexity and beauty of creation. He asks Job if he understands how the world works, or if he can control the forces of nature. God's point is clear. His wisdom and perspective are far beyond human understanding. Job realizes his error in questioning God's justice. He responds, "I am unworthy. How can I reply to you? I put my hand over my mouth. I spoke once, but I have no answer. Twice, but I will say no more." In a second speech, God talks about two magnificent creatures, Behemoth and Leviathan, showing their power and how they fit into his creation. These creatures symbolize the chaos and complexity of the world, which is all part of God's good creation. Job humbly acknowledges God's greatness and repents in dust and ashes. In the end, God restores Job's fortunes, giving him twice as much as he had before. Job's family and wealth are returned, and he lives a long, prosperous life. To really understand Job's story, we need to see it within the broader context of biblical wisdom literature. The book of Job is one of 3 books known as wisdom literature, along with Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. If you're enjoying this video so far, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more biblical stories. Proverbs tells us that God is wise and just. It describes a world where the righteous are rewarded and the wicked are punished. You get what you deserve. But Ecclesiastes gives us a different view. It notes that life isn't always fair. Sometimes the wicked prosper and the righteous suffer. Life is unpredictable and hard to understand, like smoke. Job's story dives into this tension between the ideals in Proverbs and the reality observed in Ecclesiastes. It asks the tough questions. Is God truly just? Why do the righteous suffer? The story of Job starts with a heavenly wager. Satan, the adversary, challenges God's claim that Job is truly righteous. He suggests that Job's faithfulness is only because of his blessings. To test Job's faith, God allows Satan to take away his possessions and children and then afflict his health. Despite immense suffering, Job initially remains faithful, refusing to curse God. But as his friends insist that his suffering must be due to some hidden sin, Job begins to question God's justice. Feeling unfairly treated, he demands an explanation from God. God's response is both profound and humbling. Instead of giving Job a direct answer, he takes him on a whirlwind tour of the universe, highlighting its complexity and grandeur. Through this, God shows Job that his wisdom and perspective are far beyond human comprehension. It's a powerful reminder that we, as humans, can't fully understand God's ways. Job's story ends with God restoring his fortunes. But it's not a reward for passing a test. Instead, it's a gift, a sign of God's grace. Job never finds out about the heavenly wager or the reason for his suffering, yet he comes out of his ordeal with a deeper understanding of God's wisdom and a renewed faith. The book of Job, along with Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, gives us a full picture of wisdom in the Bible. Proverbs teaches us about the ideal order of the world. Ecclesiastes shows us the complexities and uncertainties of life. And Job reminds us of the vastness of God's wisdom and the limits of our understanding. Job's story reminds us that our understanding of justice and suffering is limited, but we can trust in God's wisdom. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, click on the next video for more truths from the Bible. We'll see you next time.